Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is a quick trade update, possibly with basic training explaining about this trade. Uh, as Bitcoin started turning around and taking the slope down, I did sell it with about $50 in profit after trading fees, which for personally I think is not bad. It's not a loss. Now, if any of you actually bought in without waiting for it to come down, um, now you actually need to have a little bit of patience. If here's here's something that I'll say: if the price drops below 46,000, let's say 850, 890, somewhere this area, then it would you would start considering selling the trade, any trade that you have, because possibly then we are reversing going down. You might as well pick up the trade lower. Now, if you have not got into a trade and you want to get into trade, as long as we stay above 47,000, um, between where we are right now and 47,000, which I would prefer to wait until we get as close to 47,000. This would be the spot to get into some of those trades. Again, Raven and one, I probably would avoid out of that list. So pretty much ETC, Doge, VAT, and then would be the four coins that I would still consider trading. One and Ran, they're not performing good enough, so the possibility of them actually doing good overnight is becoming slim. Um, so those are the actually outcome. Why I say as long as we stay under 47,000, because this area has not been traded as well, and we might be coming in to try to trade this area and then get pushed to trade the final part of this area is this area right here before we move on to the top or to the bottom. Now, anytime we can move, that's not a guarantee that we will be trading that, but those are kind of a patterns I've been seeing, and you guys can go back, take a 1 minute chart, go back and look at, you can take a 50-minute chart, go back in history, you will find this repeating over and over again, where we usually always trade, and sometimes we will jump down and they will jump up, and always we're gonna trade, especially when the market is really slow, like right now. Um, we usually have very small bounces, and in those small bounces, we usually kind of trade. Like here was a very nice climbing opportunity of a trade, and I did get in and not in too bad of a spot, so I've been able to. If I would have been more active before we took this down, I could have probably cashed out about 120 or so, but by the time I noticed that we're dropping, I've been able to only catch about 50 or so. Um, and that's the difference between buying and waiting one time and then buying and trying to pinch something out of a trade. Um, and that's what I did is I trade it as a day trader where you get in and you grab a little bit, you get out, then you find another trade, you get in. And like right now, as it is trying to make a decision, are we coming down to trade this area right here or we're not coming down? So as a waiting, I would actually hold on, and if it starts showing that it's not coming down and we start possibly getting those green candles, then I would actually look in to each of those coins. As we see, these coins right here right now would be a perfect spot to get in as long as it doesn't continue going down. And as we see on a 15-minute chart, we do have a upside down J hook being created. Sometimes J hooks like to come down quite a bit up to here. Sometimes that's as far as they go, and then they start reversing. Um, One other thing on Bitcoin that I'm seeing here is on 1 minute we have this M that's built, and that's this M right here worries me because that indication of possible pushing us all the way down to 47,000, 46,900, and then working this area right here. So that's another thing that kind of are watching. Are we gonna behave this M and follow through with it, or this is just M that working its way into creating a W? That's um, kind of a question that's sometimes hard to answer until it completes whatever it wants. So Ether, as I mentioned, if you want to get in, you want to get in this area or lower. Looks like Ether already is trying to push, and there's a good possibility it might actually push and push through. We do have this W that created, small W created here, which is an indication of it going at least to where we at or higher before creating another pattern or just continuing. Let's back go down to Doge. Doge created this head and shoulder, which was a continuation of the head and shoulder right there. Right now we are, looks like, building a W, which is again identification sign, which is kind of almost similar what we had here, and we're gonna start pushing back up. At least that looks like. Also, great spot to get in as long as we are going up. Um, and that same thing. We had that head shoulder situation, which we came down. Right now, we created here this W, which will start showing a sign of going up as well. Dent, same story. One thing with Dent, uh, it did not cross the support. So this came down to the support, bounced back up, and looks like it might try to hit support one more time as long as it doesn't break support and doesn't come below 008422. Those will be a good spot to get in. If it breaks through, then it still can go, but now you have to actually try to recover out of this area when bounds. And the only way this would actually break further down, that's if Bitcoin continues dropping, which Bitcoin seems like it's holding its position at the 47,200 area. One on a 50 minutes scale, you have a small W here, looks like an M, which possibly might push it down all the way to 0.09473 area, possibly. Um, but also we are having some kind of a trend here. So as long as we hold that trend, we might be able to bounce back from this area again, and this is going to become uh, quick trade um, for 1 or 2% gain and then get out as long as Bitcoin holds its position. That's why I'm not suspecting a lot of one right now because it's kind of got stuck into this area here, very similar to what Bitcoin kind of got stuck itself into. So you guys kind of see kind of the head, the shoulder, and the shoulder is going to come down and continue coming down, or it will go up for a second top or further up, which is a good possibility. It's going to go further up because it still has room to go. And it needs to go at least to here to kind of match up with a lot of other coins that's out there. Do apologize, I'm already halfway sleeping, and I probably after this video I'll probably uh, fall asleep because I kind of really tired. Been kind of up since 4 or 5 this morning. Um, Same thing with RAN, and those are the two coins that are risky because they have they broke out and then came back. They have not established themselves into a new high. So they do have a tendency of this kind of a trend going up. So there's a possibility it might come down to 51.3. And if you're okay with a half or 1% gain and use this as a scalping trade, and your fees allow, then go for that small percentage. But if you're looking for that 3 more% run, uh, I cannot guarantee that REN is going to be one of those coins for tonight, where ETC, Doge, VAT, and DANT are showing more of a promise, and they already ran up quite a bit compared to one and ran since 8 o'clock tonight. They kind of sitting around that area and not moving. I was suspecting at least each one to break by now to 2% or higher, and they have not completed that. So that's kind of resist. One of the other coins you might consider is XRP. XRP seems like continuing to climb. Um, it's hard for me to say that the next target is actually $70, but I also seen some rumors on YouTube where case was won by XRP. If that is true, then XRP will continue climbing, disregardless what's happening with Bitcoin and everything else. It will somewhat obey Bitcoin, but in between Bitcoin going sideways, it will take advantages to take new heights. So if that is true, that the case has been won and closed, um, XRP would be also another coin that will continue running. And again, as we are at the low, would be a nice to get into. What else? But again, I believe I'm a very strong believer having multiple coins at smaller dollar amount that you purchase than buying just one coin because that increase your chances of getting those that perform uh, and not getting stuck with a coin that actually unperform at all. So XLM, I don't know. I don't see XLM right now doing much, even though it has quite a bit to go. But at the same time, it kind of got stuck here, and we might actually have a further bounce uh, before actually going up again. 4 o'clock in the morning by New York time, where the European market opens. That's usually where a lot of action happens. Sometime at 2 o'clock in the morning your time when Asian market opens, also we might see some actions as well. I believe it's two Asian or Russian market. I don't know, one of those two markets that open at 2 o'clock in the morning. Yanfi, see, it's right there. So unless it breaks through here and starts traveling further, then we start having new targets that it can go to. But what I look for is where we had the biggest drop, and I look at those targets. And first, we need to meet those targets before we start looking at all the rest of those targets. So Yanfi have achieved. Will it continue? There's a good chance, but until it breaks out from this high further up, I would watch it, but not get yourself involved in a trade that you might be regretting. Um, Theta, again, it has not broken out of its last high right here, even though based by this candle, with a lot of coins already went and touched these areas after the previous low. So it should actually have a potential going to $10, but I would like to see this breakout before getting involved in something. SHIB, stay away. Not enough of data, and data is just all over the place. Rested Bell also did 4% in the last couple hours, and it still has that potential of $2.44. It slightly have broken out from its last high, created a new high, but something that kind of worries me right here, we have this round up. So if we break past here, might be a good one to get into, but at the time at that point you are chasing the trade. You're not letting the trade come to you. But if we drop below this area, then you want to watch how far we're going to drop before we get in. Again, Bitcoin will have a big impact. Will it drop or not? Because it already had some of that growth today. Algo is another coin that has a possibility of trade from $1.109 all the way up to 114, and it has not reached those areas yet. So as we can see, for the last couple hours, it's been recovering back to its last high. If it breaks through, this would be also nice coin to possibly trade up to, and might have a potential of doing some good overnight. So let's see on that one. I would hold myself from it right for now. Phil, again, has a potential to here, even though there's a good potential of it going all the way up to here for some reason. I don't know. I marked it. Uh, I don't know. I just have some kind of feeling with this coin, with something in this area. But based on looking at the history, this right here area is the area of a target that we focused on. Now, if you look at the 1 minute chart, looks like we might be building an M. So kind of be careful and watch what happens before we jump in. There's also a possibility that we are building a double tap. We already single tapped here. We're possibly building the second tap as we prepare for the reversal. And in my previous videos, I already told you guys my opinion on the reversal. Um, and I stick to that. It all depends. Will we break 50,000 on Bitcoin? If we do, that means, and we hold above 50,000, then we're going up before we're coming down. If we fail to break 50,000 on Bitcoin, then we're coming down. So the question is when we're coming down, today, tomorrow, or we're going to try for a week to break through 50,000. If we fail, then we're coming down, or we break and hold above 50 and be coming down in 1, 2, 3, 4 months from now. That's the only difference. We are coming down eventually, just no matter when. And if you guys want to know why 50,000, watch my previous video that has about 90 views by now. Um, that's the one that was done early in the morning today. So Luna is one other final coin that also has a possibility either topping up and doing a second top because it already reached the levels that I suspect minimum levels. The next levels up. If it breaks out and start traveling, then we would have new levels going up. But until then, it did at least the minimum. Now all it is double top if it's planning on coming down, and of course for the double top you do have a little room here. If you want to pinch 1-2%, there is that possibility. So let's go back one more time. Look at Bitcoin, what Bitcoin is doing. Um, looks like Bitcoin is going sideways. Probably not looking. There's a possibility that Bitcoin probably not interested in breaking through 50 EMA. So, in other words, not interested in going under 47,000, which means getting in some of these trades that I mentioned might be a good idea, as a lot of these trades are in a good low spot. Like ETC right now in a good low spot, as long as Bitcoin continues sideways, some of these coins might have good potential to get into. But again, if you're in, fees has to be low. You have to watch it. The minute you start feeling anxious, uncomfortable, if you have not put together a plan of exit, that means you are out. Every trade that you ever take, you should not have anxiety. You should not be feeling anxious. You should not feel uncomfortable. You should feel comfortable. And the minute the discomfort comes in, there's two things that's happening. Either you took a wrong trade or you're trading too much money. So the minute the anxiety comes in, you need to figure out, are you trading too much money or are you in the wrong trade? Because every trade needs to be, you need to feel comfort, you need to feel, have peace in the trade. Otherwise, something's telling you you're doing something wrong. Yes, it will lead you to lose on those trades, but then you're going to actually learn a lesson. If you think back and you try to figure out what is the lesson is trying to teach you. So, blessings to every single one of you, and Mr. Stacy, great update. Great to watch you and Tom. And yes, watching Doge, keeping an eye on the T Fuel as well. Late night again, watching these coins due to critical time. Yes, SRV has been doing some of its own action tonight versus Bitcoin. Can you do some analytics on Doge, please? NATO, I already did some analytics on Doge. Um, as and I'll do it one more time. On a 1 minute, we have this head, we have this slanted shoulder. Possibility it might want to come down up to about here and then reverse. It also possibility that if Bitcoin stops coming down because Bitcoin was at 20%, at point 20% right now is at 0.12, which drags Bitcoin with itself. So if Bitcoin starts around and coming back up, it might turn around and take another run up. So that is the Bitcoin, that those analytics at this point for the short term. For the long term, Doge next target is somewhere 33 cents as long as Bitcoin stays above, like I mentioned, stays above 47,000. Doge has an opportunity. If Bitcoin drops below 47,000, you need to watch will Bitcoin turn around and come back. Then Doge has an opportunity again. If Bitcoin continues dropping below 47 and continues its way down, Doge will be at that point either going sideways or following Bitcoin down and finding a new opportunity to run up when Bitcoin starts going sideways again. So, or bouncing back up for a short period of time. That's how most of all these coins, based on which coins and when, they're always looking for an opportunity to bounce back up when Bitcoin allows them to do so. I hope that makes sense. And here's something that I'll tell you guys, a difference between me and Tom. Tom is good at reading charts, massaging charts, like he says. Uh, I don't even want to get into what he does with his charts. You know, let him explain what he does, because we can interpret what he says in various different ways. But I'll tell you guys one thing: I use common sense on top of everything else. I can look at charts as much as I want, but end of the day, I'm also trying to use common sense because I'll try to interpret what I see in a way that actually I can understand and also lay it out to you guys the best I can. You know, because at the end of the day, I want you guys to start doing this on your own, not always depend on me and Tom. So, but as you guys are seeing, Bitcoin looks like coming down to 47,000, and if it breaks below 46.9, I would recommend to close any positive trades or reduce the amount you have in them. And look at this. It's 11:47, so it's a midnight panic. It has not broken down to 46.9 yet. But if it breaks 40, I'm sorry, 46, yeah. If it breaks 46.9, uh, I would actually get out of whatever trade it is and cut your losses at that point if you are in. And if it holds above 46.9, then, if you're in trade, continue holding because these things might bounce back up, should bounce back up. And if you're not in trade, might, start listening to your gut feeling. Is this is a trade for you or not? Now, if you look at the 4-hour chart, We do have on this small head here, we do have the shoulder area, um, the bottom of the neckline, which means which most likely should at least come back one more time to 48,000 or somewhere in the area of 48,000 one more time and then bounce back if we are going down. Or, like I always said, if we continue going up and we break through 50,000, then I guess we're having a rally going up, then going down. Um, but as you guys always seen, on majority of the candles for the last four candles, we came to the bottom on every single one of them and then went up, came to the bottom and then went up. So this kind of this candle we just started should not be any different. We have what, actually 10 minutes on this candle left. Gee, that's gonna be our first red candle in the last 12 hours. Because of that red candle now, um, this red candle. Can it still go back up? Yes, it can. Because at the end of the day, it is a 50 EMA, so all it is, it just came down to kind of like check in with 50 EMA and might actually turn around and go back up. And like on a 4 hour as well as 15 hour, we have 9 minutes left on this candle. Actually, I'll wait for another 9 more minutes because I'm interested even myself to see how this candle will close. Because that candle might tell a lot what is to suspect out of Bitcoin in the next couple hours. I think this right here on the 4 hour is a continuation candle, which means we will continue going up. This candle is actually identifying there's a lot of buyer's pressure. This candle right here shows us buyer pressure, but also it kind of looks like a cross, which, short tail above, long tail below, and a very tiny body, which is identifies as a possible reversal candle. And then if this candle right here closes the way it is, then again, it's the opposite of this candle, saying it's a reversal possible to the top. So kind of, possible reversal to the bottom, possible reversal back to the top. So I'll wait for 7 more minutes. We have 7 minutes and 27 seconds left. See how this candle close on a 4 hour as well as on a 15 minute. Those of you that just came in, started watching from the beginning, I've started watching this video. If you are in a trade or considering taking trades, start the video from just grab the progress bar on the video, pull it to the left, and we'll start watching from the beginning. Yeah, I'm kind of sleepy at this point, so I don't remember if I start repeating, if I'll be able to cover everything. Okay, we just broke through 46.9. If you guys are in a trade, you might need to consider what you're going to do, because if we continue going any further than 46.9, then that means we shouldn't If you guys not in trade and looking to get into a trade, as long as we hold 46.9 and above, then that means we should be turning around and possibly turning around and would be a good to look for entry at this point. So those are kind of the tips here. But I'm definitely interested in to see how this candle turns out. So of course also this candle right here as well. Um, on this head and shoulder, it already went as far as it would go. So right now on a 1 minute chart, all we're looking right now is it's starting a new pattern or continue breaking down. Which if it continue breaking down, it's kind of a continuation of an old pattern at that point. That's why if you guys ever watched us falling down to 29,000 on Bitcoin, and we had some of these, head and shoulder builds out, and then we continue going past, normal size would be from here to here, that size would be from here to here, and then you kind of see it continues to fall. Those are usually kind of, it's a continuation of that head and shoulder situation, which not very common, but it does has sometime that possibility. We have 4 minutes left on this candle. Um, for this to be a possible reversal candle, it would have to pull back up to at least 47,000, and maybe slightly higher. Uh, but if it doesn't pull up to at least 47,000, then this is no longer becomes a bearish candle. And in that situation, then we will be at least coming down to roughly about this area, which is 46.3, before we either have another turnaround or continuation down at that point. That's why this candle right here is very important, how it will close, because it will, then it kind of gives a direction for the swing traders as well as day traders, because they look a lot at the 4 hour chart and sometimes make the decision getting in and get out. So a lot of times those candles actually give a direction and they usually follow through. Two and a half minutes to go. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I am not surprised if it came down to 46.9 to trade this area as long as it doesn't continue coming down, because this area here not traded enough. So as long as that's what the purpose is to trade this area, then what I'm actually going to do, we're going to trade this area, and then most likely we'll get pushed either to this area right here to trade, or we'll get pushed to this area right here to get trade, and then we're going to work our way down. Those are the two common ways. Sometimes they'll overshoot and then work our ways down, or sometimes they'll shoot up and then work their way up, which 60% of the time they'll shoot here and then have us work our way down. But it's just the question here. We have a minute left. Let me look at a second. As we can see, the volume continues to be higher than an average on a 1 minute, which there might be this continuation down. Okay, we just closed this candle. Guys, be honest, this candle says we are going to most likely continue coming down, which means we will be coming down roughly to this area at least. And then at that point, either we're going to have another candle that's going to push further down, or we're going to have another candle that's going to be like maybe a reversal or something, showing us that we're going back up. And there it is. We are continuing down, and as you guys see, it's a red candle, which and the volume increased. Yeah, at this point, if you have any long positions, you need to consider quite well. You want to continue and hope that we will come back, or at this point, just close it and take the losses if you're in the last position. Because I cannot guarantee you guys we will be coming back. Because there's a good possibility this might be the beginning of the drop. Now, based on this right here, oops, wrong. We still have this possible trend, and we have not broken that trend, so we might bounce back from this trend. So again, as I said, there is a good possibility we're going to come down to the bottom of this candle, but this trend might actually push us back up. See the trend over, as I build this trend, we also touched it here, as well as came close to here. We also touched here, so this looks like it's quite a long trend, which if you look at the history, it looks like it's a valid trend and might actually have some strength to push this back up. So let's see what happens. But this behavior, um, unless it's pushing to trade this area, because it's not been heavily traded, but to go that far down and then push and then go back up, it just doesn't make sense. Very rarely they'll do that. Usually, during weekdays, not on, but I haven't seen this behavior a lot on the weekends. And again, this is a small area that's just not traded. That's literally from right here to here that has not been traded enough. Let's see, will it break through or not through this trend? Mr. Stacy, I would love to say that we are, but I would like to also see confirmation on the chart. I have already got out of my position prior and definitely need to wait and see plays out, and it could be the beginning of the crash. A taste of what's to come. Yes, it pops. Let's put it this way. At this point, it has a 60% probability that it is going down, or at least giving us a taste of it. But again, I am waiting for that confirmation. It's like saying, this is my Uber driver because the car looks so white, like it says in the app, but I have not checked the plates to the plate match according to what it says in the app. You might be getting in the wrong car. So that's kind of where same thing here. I want to make sure that this is truly is what it is, and not just another fake out. And we are just jumping on because we thought, that we found that that perfect run down, and turned out to be there was another run up. So yeah, hey, in in trading, it's always probabilities until it becomes reality, and I don't like to gamble. I like to reduce my risk of gamble to as minimum as possible. I never loved the idea of gambling. So when I look at trades, and that's why sometimes I'm having a hard time making the decision of trading until I see that I can at least squeeze, you know, 20, 30, $50 at worst case scenario. Um, or, if I'm sniping scalping at that point, I'm looking for $5 or more. And, and I'll be honest, is if this would not be the crash that everybody's talking about, because right now, a lot of people on YouTube talking about. Before it used to be just Tom and I would, support with what I would be feeling. Um, but right now a lot of people talking about this crash. So have not been scalping, because with scalping you have a couple different options. First option, you don't trade against a trend, and that is the most safest way. The second way is you just ignore the trend and you get in and you trade in between the ranges in both directions. and then you take a loss whenever the trend goes against you. Or if you trade in small amounts, then you just leave it until it comes back and turns into positive. So that's part of scalping. And I and because as we were moving up and everybody's talking about it's going to down, you kind of don't want to kind of leave yourself behind. In other words, to say, you bought up high, and then right now you're like, ouch, you want to get out. So that's kind of been, and again, scalping, it's a very time consuming and it requires a lot of attention where you cannot relax. And, it is the most profitable way, but it is, but again, when you start scalping, very hard at that point to, not the big crash yet. Yeah, at this time of night, most possible. Yeah. What was I saying? When you start scoping and you start, getting a hang of it, and you start developing that feeling for the market and start getting good at it, and when the swing trades come around, you become horrible at swing trades because you're always trying to lock in the profit before the big profit comes in. Um, if you get a good hang of scalping, the stress goes away. The stress are only in the beginning, because you're having a hard time feeling the market, because you're kind of all over the place. You kind of trying the water out. But when you start getting a hang of it and you start getting good at it, at that point the stress goes away because you're like, okay, I do have. I'm buying the trades at perfect spots. I'm selling the trades at about 70, 80% of possible target. When you are trading within the margin, you kind of try to sell before it gets to the next margin. Try to sell it off so you kind of don't get short. And then trying to get into an opposite trade. So pretty much at that point you're trading both directions, and then you set up a new order to get into a new trade if it gets triggered, and then you're kind of moving down. When it comes down to about 20% short of bottom margin, you set a automatic target sells. You set a new buy, and you kind of will go forth and back. So pretty much, when you get good at it, all it is, you just need to be good at creating those top and bottom range, and then just put in your buys and sells orders all the time. You never actually do a market order buy. It's always the limit order buys that you set. They triggered, great. They didn't trigger, you readjust it for next time when it turns around and comes back for you. And you constantly, you might, depends on how fast the coin that you're trading moving up and down. You might do in 8 hours 4 trades. You might do in 8 hours 30 trades. So yeah, so that's kind of that's how scalping works. Yeah, it's trying to come down 46,600, and as we can see, it's being rejected. Let's look at 1 minute on the details of the candles. So market makers brought us down, and then right now they just pushed us through, which again we are getting rejected from the support line, but it is still definitely market makers trying to push us. The volume also increased as well. Now on a 5-minute chart, we see a good looking AM. If this continues, possible next resistance going to be around 45.975, that area. I guess 46.0, I guess that would be the resistance. And then if we break through that resistance, and then we might have in this area some resistance, and then the next resistance would be around 43.9. That would be our next resistance area, or support area. Sorry, that we might have a possibility of bouncing back. But as you guys can see, this trend line that I just put up, it's definitely having impact on it. So a couple more minutes, we will see either we'll get pushed back up, and we might try a couple more times coming down, or it will just finally break through and continue down. And that's what you guys see here on a 15-minute chart. I hope these videos are educational at the same time to you guys. And they're actually, I'm not just, trying to say this is where we're going, but I'm also trying to give you guys some knowledge so you guys can look at the charts and say, now this becomes familiar to me. So this, as we are seeing, we are getting pulled back and rejected by the support of this trend line. Now, here's the two outcomes at this point. We might come back, do something similar to right here, where we came back, we kind of, geez, what did I call this? Kind of take a cool down time. So, they cooled off for about 5-10 minutes and then try it again. So we might have the same situation here. We'll have a cool down period and might last 10, 15, 20 minutes, and they'll try it again. If they fail the second time, most likely at that point we will get rejected and go back up again. It's trying again. But if it breaks through and it goes past these candles right here, at that point it might come back and try to check this line as a no longer a support but as a resistance. And but again, not always it comes. There's about 75% chance that it will come back and then try to check it as right now as a support as a resistance instead of support. But there's also 25% that if it breaks through, it will just continue down. So breakouts. If you watch the videos that I have in my playlist, and there's one or two videos on breakouts. Those are usually how the breakouts. They either come back and bounce, retest itself, or they'll just continue. And if you type in breakouts on YouTube, you'll find a lot of videos on that topic. Not everybody that does those videos know what they're talking about, but um, Just it is what it is. As you guys can see, it tried again, it failed, and is pushing further up again. It might come back because we're watching on a 1 minute chart. It on the 1 minute chart, it can come back and try 5, 6, 7, 10 times. So don't be surprised if we continue trying for the next 30 minutes to break through. And if it fails, then we'll continue. It's kind of almost might something might look like it's going sideways because it's constantly is just trying. And that seems like it's coming down to try it again. And as you guys can see, it's trying and there's rejection from the line. See, it just pushed back again. If you guys take enough of time to watch the charts on a minute, 1 minute chart, you're gonna start noticing patterns that you'll see that constantly they're there. It just you'll see those things repeat an hour later or 3 hours later, and you're gonna like, oh, I seen this couple hours ago. I seen this couple hours ago. Uh, I developed a habit of a 1 minute. So 3 minutes. I hear people out there use 3 minutes, but when I go to 3 minute, I stop seeing what I see at 1 minute, and it puts me in an uncomfort zone at that point because I'm not used to the 3 minutes because 3 minutes show different type of patterns in 1 minute. So that's why you guys see I have a layout, 1 minute, 15 minute, and then here I usually will switch between 4 hours or day. This way kind of gives me a full picture of what happening on a large scale. So I kind of have an idea what is the trend. Then I look at 15 minute to confirm has the trend as the trend still continues to be the same. And then on the 1 minute I watch what's actually happening. Next, sometime when we start dropping and we get into this situation, as you guys notice, I'll switch to 1 second. And then and 1 second is when you're scalping and you're looking, to pull $5, $10, and you start having the feeling the market might be changing direction, not in your favor. Switching to 1 second, you can start seeing those turnarounds really quick. So can start making decision. Do I get out, or it's at the top and it's just starting to turn around and bounce back. So 1 second charts sometime are huge decision makers when you are scalping, and you start having that uncomfortable feeling in your guts that something's not right there. And that's when you switch to the 1 second. You get out of the trade at the best possible time, and then you go back to the 1 minute chart and you start looking. Do you want to get back in, or you prefer to sit out until you start feeling that comfort of getting back in? And there's one other rule that I don't put it as a rule, but it is something to consider. If you're scalping and you got into 5 trades, and every single trade went opposite of yours. So in other words, you had 5 trades in a row that actually lost you money. The best of it all at that point to walk away for the rest of the day from the computer. Go to the lake, go do some shopping, go to a friend, spend a day at your friend's house, or go to the park. Just walk away. That means it's not your day. And if you're gonna continue sitting by the computer, that 5 losses can turn into 25 losses, which can equal to a couple $1,000. Because the more losses you start having, you start getting yourself, you start doing something what I call gambling. You start at that point, you start going crazy, and you're like, I don't care. You're taking money away from me. I'm gonna throw more money at you. You're kind of getting into that feeling at that point, and that's why I don't use it as a 100% rule, but I do recommend if you had 5 losses in a row, it's not your day most likely. Walk away. This way, you protect your money, you protect yourself, and you're not allowed yourself get into that gambling situation. Um, I'm not. I'm not talking about clearing your head. I'm talking about um, changing completely the scenery, leaving leaving that bad day behind, and completely changing the scenery, doing completely something different that can actually allow you to forget about those losses. So when the next day you come back, they're not impacting your trades again. That's what I'm referring to. Because a lot of time, people lost money the previous day, and they'll bring it in the next because they didn't walk away. They didn't do something that actually took their mind away completely into something else. And the next day they come back and they carry that baggage back in. And when they carry that baggage back in, they repeat losing again because they never forgave themselves for that mistake. They never let go of those mistakes. And when they don't let go, now it's no longer no longer trading. It's that unforgiveness that started that continue in the previous day into the next day, and they're doing another day of loss. So yeah. Okay. Right now it's becoming a critical position on a 1 minute chart because right now we have an upside down head. We came down to the neckline because right here is our neckline. Most likely we will bounce back and then move up. Option number one. Or two, we will try to come back and break through the support line one more time and maybe start going sideways. At that point, what we're going to see is something like this. And I'll put together a trend. Uh, and the outcome option two is we're going to start breaking. So at that point, this is first attempt. If that man, it's so horrible. Draws. I need to turn off the magnet. So this becomes our first touch. That's going to become our second touch. If we do not, uh, if we're not going to break out, then that's going to become our. How do I draw this to? So this becomes our second touch. This is going to become our third touch. I'm sorry, not sorry. Second touch. Jeez, I'm really sleepy today. So this is going to become the second touch, and I'm sorry, this is our first touch on the top. That's going to be our second touch on the top, and then that's going to be our third touch. Very common First attempt failed. First attempt to the top failed. That's why we have the head and shoulders. So it's the first attempt, and then it's going to be the second attempt. The second attempt, when it happens, usually on the head and shoulder, it breaks through. If the resistance is strong enough, then we come down to a third attempt at the bottom. And usually the third attempt is what actually will break through, and you're going to see this M. And that's how M's are usually formed, is by third attempt, it breaks through. If a third attempt fails, then we're going to come back for a third attempt to the top, and now you're going to have a W. And if a W fails, then we are actually at that point we are going sideways, and we're having some sort of a pennant flag or something at that point that we're going to continue until it breaks out either direction. So that's how W's and M's are formed. And if M or W fail, if both fails, then that point we're having a channel, which in that channel now you have a perfect opportunity to snipe in or the scope in. So that's how you kind of look or wait until those channels are created. So as you guys can see, and I'm going to delete all this stuff that I just draw. Um, so we can see. Okay, go back to list. So we are bounced back from the neckline, and right now we're going to start the shoulder, or we can go down for the second attempt. So we can right now. Oh, I just deleted the trend line we had. I'm like, I know I'm missing something. What's going on? There's a trend line that's missing. So there it is. So now we're waiting for either a shoulder and then breakout, or second attempt to go against the trend. So you guys kind of see there, as you look at the chart, you always see most of the time two outcomes. Very rarely there's a one outcome. And as you look at the chart and you see the two outcomes, you're trying to right now predict what out of the two outcomes, what is the most possible outcome. And based on that most possible outcome that you believe based on your gut feeling, that's when you make a decision on the trade. Because otherwise, you're always going to say, it's a 50-50 chance, and you're never going to actually ever trade. That's why, you need to go take that 50-50 and then look which gut feeling telling you which out of the two options are most likely to be. Honestly, very small shoulder, but it's enough. But it is enough. Look at it. Look at that. Look at that flight. Now, as we come down to the 50 EMA, two things usually happens. Either we continue up, or what actually at this point can do is actually can kind of go through this cloud up to about yay high, and then turn around and try another attempt. Because what we just did here, we completed a pattern of a head and a shoulder. We came up, and that pattern can continue all the way up to about right here. And then at that point, we can start a new pattern. And the new pattern, most likely, or let's have 50-50 chance again, either a continuation up or a pattern where we'll come back because we want to try that support one more time. And if you look on the 50-minute chart going a couple hours back, this right here was a fake out. But thanks to this fake out, we traveled all the way up to its height. So whenever you see these fake outs, 90% of the time, they're telling you where you're going to go. So like here, it was a fake out, but at the same time, it gave you idea where we went. Where with this fake out, this direction, we have not came down and traded this direction. So that's the 10% possibility that it's not happening. Now, we also have this fake out that actually came out, and very rarely we will not eventually come back and trade this area. Usually, we will always come back and trade this area. So that's why when everybody's screaming, oh, we're coming down, and I'm looking at this, the only time we're coming down that is we are not going to trade. I go back to the marker. That we're going to leave this area untraded, which means we're going to leave this area untraded. And so far, we traded about 70% of this area with this trade right here, which now it becomes a question. Why would market makers pull us into this area and have us trade this area and then take us down? At this point, if they made us trade this area, that means they'll have us finish trading this area, and then they'll pull us to the next high and then have us come back and trade this area, or they'll have us trade this area and then push us up. So those are the kind of I'm more of a common sense guy compared to by the book. So so when I look at this thing and I'm like, okay, it's supposed to do this and this, but at the same time, what does the common sense says? What does my gut feeling says? And based on those things, it's a question that I cannot answer why they brought us and made us trade this area if they're taking us down. That's just a question. Because at this point, if they're made us trade, that means they're looking further to take us up. That's how I see it. That's why I cannot say we are dropping tonight because it just doesn't make sense. That doesn't mean that cannot happen. It's just what is their logic at this point? Or somebody on their end really messed up. took us took us to trade the area that we should have not been trading. Okay, we went up, we came down, and now what's next? because at this point I don't see any pattern in any direction. Let me see. Oh, let me delete this. Go back to this. Okay, so we came back. We completed the leg. Um, Possibly taking this small W, coming back again here and trying to tap it second time and see if they can break through the top. And if that fails, they might come back and turn this right now into a bigger W and try and take a third attempt to break through the resistance. I agree with you that based on what I'm seeing on a 15-minute chart, it has to go up because this M right here looks like failed. It couldn't break through the through the support. So this pattern just wasn't strong enough to carry out its destiny. So right now, um, it so right now it has to either come back up and create another leg and kind of make it like a double M, and then come back one more time. So pretty much we'll come back and then try third time somewhere around 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, New York time. So that can be one possibility in the 15 minute, or it's just going to or it's going to just cancel this pattern completely out and start building a new pattern. Those are the two outcomes on 15-minute chart. That's if I ignore what I've been talking about, areas that we traded. Now, as I see the areas that we traded, it can go up, finish this area of a trade, and then take a third attempt, or most logical way, it would repattern, finish this area off, and then go up, continue up. So yeah, I agree. There's a um, almost 70% possibility that it will continue up. So it's going up for the second attempt. And as you guys see right now it's having a steady move. And usually steady moves, uh, there are more provide more results breaking through resistance or supports than just coming up and coming down. So as long as we continue this steady, it should break through and then create a new pattern at that point. Um, because we failed here, and the chance of it coming back, because we're seeing here we're moving in up direction, which means there's a chance of us coming back becoming less and less. I'll tell you here, um, etc is working its way, repatterning back. As you can see, that they gave up on a J hook and they're coming back up to break out to a new high. Doge. Um, it had a bigger J hook, and as you see, it's already starting working its way up. Um, Pretty much same pattern on as we have on Bitcoin on 1 minute. But here we built a M, which means here it tried twice to break through. It failed. Or, we have a head as some call them batsman head, the left ear, the right ear. It failed. Here's your shoulder area, and this is a shoulder area. And it tried, and right now it's trying again to continue up. So as long as it break through here, a nice spot to get in if you want to get back in and squeeze something out. As long as you have fees that are very cheap. Vet, same thing as on Doge. Uh, Double tap head, small shoulders area. Here the vet already broken through, and pretty much at this point the vet is waiting on Bitcoin to break out. As soon as Bitcoin breaks out, it will start traveling back up. Uh, XRP is one other coin you're looking at. Let's look at XRP. XRP looks like already did it moves again. Batsman head, left shoulder area, right shoulder area. And right now, again, it's waiting on a permission from Bitcoin to continue up. So on a 15-minute chart, I see within the next 2 hours, XRP probably coming up to about $1.37, $1.38. Because right now you can experience a resistance at $1.40. So you're gonna count about here before you repattern again. So that's a possibility. Because when this comes up, Bitcoin permits it, and this comes up, it will break through this resistance that we have right here. So let's look at T-Fuel. On my platform, on Bitcoin, I don't think T-Fuel is tradable. Maybe in a spot, but not in futures. T-Fuel on 15-minute, it has a pennant flag. So you have top line right here, and I'm going to draw it out. Magnet is off. So pretty much you have a line here at the top. You also have a line here that comes up from the bottom. And there's a 90% possibility it's going to break out to the top because it's a top pennant flag. But it also has room till about 1:30, 2 o'clock time until it has to break out of the pennant flag. I'm with you, and I'm not gonna be just filling up my bag with XRP. I'll be filling up my bag with a lot of things, because that's when you drop to the bottom. That's when you multiply your money by 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 times. Okay, you have one more T-Fuel. We just looked at, no, we did, yeah, T-Fuel. And there's that, and Teta. Oh, so the T-Fuel is a Teta, okay. So I guess I answered your questions. Let's get back to Bitcoin. Look at Bitcoin one more time. Okay, now if you look at Bitcoin, and this is where, remember I said there's a possibility we will have that second attempt? Right there's your second attempt. Tiny head, tiny shoulder, right shoulder from this head, right shoulder, which means now from here to here, it's exactly the same distance from here to here that is actually most likely will travel. So so we'll have a second attempt at this point hitting the support. See, and if you have enough of, if you feel comfortable and and willing to take risks from here to here, can be tradable. Yeah, unless the shoulder turns into something else, it has to come down at least to here, further than what it did already come down. So at least double the distance. And then at that point, it can repattern again. Yeah. Um, Trading any kind of a market develops a lot of patience in you. And if you can, and if it won't develop patience in you, it will destroy you and your account. What you just seen right here is not going to have enough of energy to go down, so it pushes itself up to develop that energy to finish off its pattern. So a lot of people sometimes will look at this and like, oh, the pattern it just canceled out its pattern. Yes, there are situations where it's very rare that will cancel out pattern. Usually, what it does is just pushes up so it can create enough of energy to continue pushing down. No, honestly, if I would not be doing this live, I would be sleeping already. I need my sleep, otherwise, it started impacting my sight. I not able to see. It starts with blurriness and then it gets really bad. And so I need to get my sleep. I don't know, about a month ago, I was in a trade and it got really bad with the sight. So I will call my wife to kind of tell me what's happening in the chart. So, she's been based on her how she sees it, been telling me, and this way I kind of went up to in the morning. So in the morning, I closed the trade and I went to sleep. And when I woke up and I looked at an account and I'm like, where's $600 missing from my account? My wife was she got so carried away looking at the chart and telling me what she sees in the chart, and I was misunderstanding her what she sees, that she didn't bother looking at that we went $600 upside down. So yeah. Um, Now, as you can see, this am or this head and shoulder right now going too far to the side. Um, so at this point, it's considered same thing as it went down. It just canceled itself out in that situation, and now we are looking for a new pattern. So sometimes going to the side is the same thing as going down and finishing out the pattern going down. That's the only other way you can interpret like this pattern right here. W, we went slightly to the side, and then we continued down. And this turned out to be a W as a down as a pattern. Even if you look at it, you kind of don't see the W, but that's how the W looks when you're coming down or you're going up. And then as the W completed, we had this. So pretty much you can say this is head and shoulders, or you can say this. Oh, this was a W that actually pushed us this far. So you can interpret a chart in a couple different ways, but at the end of the day, it gives you the same results. Volume almost completely vanished. It's 1 o'clock, almost 1 o'clock. So in 4 minutes, we might start seeing serious actions because of somewhere in the world a new mark computers going online with a new mark, or we might actually go completely quiet sideways at this point until 2 o'clock New York time. See, it's still trying to continue with the pattern down, but at this time it's only a 50-50 chance that it will continue. So don't, because at this point right here it was considered as a down pattern. So anything past here, it can continue on with the same pattern or start a new pattern at that point. So don't kind of trick yourself. Oh, it has to still go down. At this point, it doesn't have to. Uh, Here's something else. Um, Pattern. What makes patterns is actually the psychology of human behavior, how they respond to putting money into the market and how they actually psychologically how they respond. Is how we see that in pattern. I still have not. I do like to, eventually speak with a psychologist and see if they can actually interpret this, uh, you know, different areas of of human psychological areas, and which areas, which group of people actually are creating these patterns, because that's be very interesting part to see, at least for me, because I'm a common sense guy. So for me, we kind of understand at least that part. I'll be happy if it stays sideways until morning, so we don't miss out on any ops. Guess we can ask the market makers to do that. Um, we are coming up in 3 hours to the European market. You have only about 20% chance that we will be going sideways during the European market period, when people wake up and try to trade. Um, 80% of the time, European market responds with with a certain direction, even going up or going down. In the 5 minutes of BTC, you can really see a head and shoulder pattern. Now in play. Well, let's switch to 5 minutes. See what you see. See, and that's kind of, I'm not used to the 5 minutes. So yes, I see what you see. Here's a head, but then I look at him like very tiny shoulder down here. It's like missing a shoulder on the left side, and then like huge shoulder on the right side. So that's why kind of, I'm used to certain charts and I see stuff differently. Uh, because here I can see, the left shoulder, I can see the head, I can see the right shoulder, which we came up, we completed the pattern, and then we started a new tiny head and shoulder pattern, and we completed it about right there. And now we started a new pattern. Right now it's an upside down head and shoulders. So right now, right there is your head. And you can also look at this yellow line, and that kind of, shows you those patterns as well. So right now, we had this head, we have the left shoulder, and right now we are building the right shoulder, which when we complete the right shoulder, we should shoot up to roughly about here or so. But again, this red candle, which is a market maker's candle, just cancels out all this pattern that was building that tiny head and shoulder, because it just went further than the head. Um, yes, this is Binance. Also, here you have different between switching different type of Hiki Ashi view, and then this standard candlestick view. So it also creates different view. Uh, I know a lot of people like using the Hiken Ashi view. I'm just not used to it. I guess that's the reason why I kind of, don't like it. it alters real data, and that's what I don't like looking at altered data. I guess that's the reason. And I know by switching between log and not log also somehow impacts the candle information, but I have not figured out how. And it seems like it's expanding its trades. So at this point, it becomes not really clear what it's doing at this point. And sometimes you'll run into a situation where they manipulate the data so much that you're looking at it and you're like, what? It's like it's going nowhere. Because wherever it's going, you don't understand where it's going. And this is actually one of the situation right now because it just canceled out that pattern that it had, came down, then immediately came back, and like as if it's trying to complete that pattern that it canceled out. And of course, it has an issue on the 1 minute getting past the 50 EMA and break through it as well. So right now we're creating a big W most likely because we did already came down here. We got rejected again. It didn't go far enough, but enough to consider it as rejected. And right now we most likely will start building out, and that's going to turn into the big W, which will push us up at least this far right here before it repatterns again. And right now, it's a bigger W, which means further we travel. The bigger the W's and M's are, the further we'll travel. So you always want to look at um, distance between here and here, as well as from here to here, and then calculate the possibility of travel by completing that pattern. Time that distance can be multiplied 2 to 3 times. And I personally believe at this point, we probably, again, probably completed trying to break through support unless this W will is not completed yet, and we will try one more time coming down. But if this W becomes completed, we will not come back for another at least 2 to 3 hours before we try this, which then we might have a possibility of coming back and trying this resistance again, which would be enough of time to come back and trade this area. So pretty much come back, trade this area, and might come back third time then to try that resistance, which is like at that point is actually going to be the fourth time because we had once, twice, third, and that's going to be at that point fourth time, which is less likely it's going to come back fourth time at this point. I think it's going to trade this area and then jump probably either to here and trade down, which is most likely. That's kind of like a 60-70% chance. Jump to the top, trade down, or come to here and trade up. So as we continue going up, that kind of identifies that we less likely coming down to try a third time or cancel this out and consider as a second time attempt. And we are starting to move on our W position, which will bring us back most likely to this area. At this point, I think there's no point continuing watching for me. But you guys are in the trade, and you guys going to continue watching as this plays out. And I'm saying 90% chance that's what it is. We're coming up. We're going to trade this area, and then we're going to jump 60 to 65, 70%. We're going to come up to here and trade down. About 30% chance we're going to come up here and trade up. So those are possibilities right there. If anything goes another direction, you guys can call me on my cell. My number is 941-256-3335, and I can jump on and look at the chart and see what I see. But so far, this W, unless it's repatterns into something else, this W right here, right now, kind of tells us what's the outcome for the next 2 hours or 2 to 3 hours. Hey, blessings on those that actually are in the trade or considering taking the trade. I bless you guys with abundance and full bag of money out of those trades. And see you guys in the morning if you guys don't have to wake me up. Good night.